Hello, wonderful listeners. You probably do not recognize me, but I'm Katie Worden, the producer of this podcast, Oxygen for Educators. Usually I'm on the other side of the mic and camera while Chris and Michelle bring each episode to you. But today's a little different, and I hope that's okay. First off, I have some exciting news. We're giving this podcast the permanence of print. So many of you have shared that you listen in the car or on a walk or while working out, and that these conversations are bringing you life and hope. You've asked for something that you can hold in your hands, something that you can return to again and again. So we're listening. And we are creating a companion keepsake magazine to go along with the podcast. And thanks to our very generous sponsors, we're gifting you a free 2026 subscription. Now, we want to mail you these beautiful issues, so we need to know where to send them. So if you can, click the link in the show notes, share your preferred mailing address, and we'll take care of the rest. We absolutely promise your information will only be used to send your gifted issues of Oxygen for Educators. And please, 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 please tell your friends, share this with every educator you know, share this with your campus, with your staff, and the podcast. So we're looking for likes and shares and follows on the podcast. And then we definitely want you to opt in for that gifted 2026 subscription of Oxygen for Educators. Okay, now on to today's episode. We are re-releasing a very impactful conversation, our episode with Dr. Maricela Helm. Now, when we recorded this back in June, she was the Executive Director of Student Services in Wiley ISD. And since then, she has taken on the same role, but in Whitehouse ISD. And of course, continues to lead with the same heart and vision that made this conversation so memorable. So this episode, however, is especially meaningful to me. Years ago, when I was hoping to return to education after a short season in corporate world, Dr. Helm, then principal at Amy Parks Elementary in Rockwall, she took a chance on me. She was or is the kind of leader who was very sure to remind everyone that when you focus first on the emotional well-being of children, the academics will follow. And her leadership really lit a spark in me that has guided everything I've done, including my work today with Tacky Box and with Oxygen for Educators. So we are choosing to revisit this episode now, today, in November, because we feel like it's the perfect moment to pause and refocus. The first stretch of the school year is behind us. The holidays are approaching, and educators everywhere are running on fumes. So Dr. Helm's message is a deep breath, a reminder that mindset is freedom, that relationships are the foundation of learning, and that joy isn't an added feature of our work. It's a sign of deep health, both in our systems and within ourselves. So, truly, as you listen, I hope you feel seen, encouraged, and I hope you're reminded that the impact you're making right now, not someday, not when things calm down, but right now, matters more than you know. So let's take a listen to our conversation with Dr. Maricela Helm.
When we talk about the kind of person they are, we're not talking about the kind of person they will be someday, but we're talking about like right now, the kind of person you are right now, you know? I always felt like when I was in school, it was like, what are you going to be when you grow up? And what great things are you going to do? And there was this always forward-looking, futuristic, and I still think that way, like someday, what am I going to be? And I think we've shifted that so that when we talk to kids, we're like, right now, you're great. Right now, you're great.
Yeah.
You know, you can do things right now. You don't have to wait until you have this amazing title or you are doing things. You can impact the world as you are right now.
Welcome to Oxygen for Educators, part of the Ripple Maker Project. I'm one of your hosts, Michelle Kinder, and you'll meet Chris Kent Phelps in just a bit. It's our hope to bring you thought-provoking, unscripted conversations full of actionable ideas to fuel your important work in the world. Thanks for tuning in. This space is for you. Hi, Chris.
Hi, Michelle. How are you today?
I'm good. Our guest today came to us via Katie the Great. But man, if we'd combed the entire country to look for the perfect person to give Oxygen for Educators, we would have come across her. So it's so fun that people are going to get to know her.
Yes.
Do you want to tell folks what they're about to listen to?
Would love to. So I'm going to go with Dr. Helm because I can't roll my R's the way that you can. But Dr. Helm serves as the Executive Director of Student Services in Wiley ISD in Texas. She has over 2 decades of experience in education, including 13 years as a principal. She talks a lot about the importance of principalship, as she calls it. But I liked the way in the interview she described how her current role was presented to her. And that is to shape the culture of the district in a way that's preventative of discipline, spread SEL, and build campus cultures so that the kids and the staff feel like they have a strong relationship. And that's what enticed her to take this role. And it sounds like she's doing amazing work.
Well, let's listen to the interview and then we'll come back and talk about what was sticky for us.
You got it.
Hello, Maricela. Welcome.
Michelle, you said it so beautifully.
Oh,
Thank you.
Oh,
That means a lot.
Yeah, I grew up in Guatemala, so I learned English and Spanish at the same time.
Oh,
wow. And I can't say Spanish words in an English way. And so it seems very odd unless you know my backstory.
Yeah.
Yes, to me, you're Maricela.
Yes, that's right. My mom told me when I started school, I was going to have to help my teachers pronounce my name because they couldn't roll their R's. But what I heard is that they couldn't roll their arms. And I felt so bad for my teachers who couldn't roll their arms.
That's the cutest thing I've ever heard. Oh, I love it. Did you ever offer like some arm rolling tutoring?
No, I was very respectful when they didn't say it correctly. But we had to work on how do you correct somebody when they try to change your name a little bit or try to call you Mary or something.
Yes,
so,
yes.
Smart woman, my mom, to prepare a 5-year-old to have that.
Right.
Yeah.
Especially when we were growing up, like there was a whole lot of insensitivity around that.
Yeah. We've grown as a society.
Yeah. Well, tell us a little bit about your story just so the listeners can kind of be grounded in who you are and what you do and how you got there.
Well, so I have a background actually in broadcasting. I got a job right out of college working Channel 5, which I loved but couldn't pay my bills. And so started working through the DISD program where they give you an alternative certification to become a teacher. And I just immediately loved it. Loved teaching, loved my kids. We did so many fun things. And then moved up to be a specialist, a dean of instruction, and assistant principal. And now I work in central office student services, which is basically helping with any student need outside of curriculum.
So you and Katie have a lot of similarities in terms of your path. And for the listeners, you've heard us talk about Katie, our producer. And I have to tell you, what she said about you you were her principal, right?
Right. Yes.
And she said that your leadership inspired her to focus more on the well-being of children and prioritize helping them develop into functional human beings, knowing that academic excellence would come as a result of that.
Right.
Which is such high praise. And we were joking earlier, like anyone that had a hand in Katie becoming who she is a hero in my book, because she's just so clear about what matters and what kids need. And tell us more about how she got that and what you did as a leader to instill that.
Yeah, there's a lot of pressure on educators today. There's high standards for our students to perform, which I love actually, because there are ways that our students can really show off what they know and they can meet those expectations. But it also can be very stressful for the kid and for educators as they're trying to get them there. And so I think the times that I became a principal, I remember thinking there's got to be a way to get kids to still love school, to still perform because accountability is important, right, but to still love school and not feel bad about themselves, and to understand that school is a place for learning. They don't have to know everything when they walk in the door. That's the whole point. It's our job to teach them. And how do we do that? How do we help kids love school? How do we help kids and teachers love school, so that teachers also like kids and want to connect with them and build those relationships? And so at the end of the day, regardless of what happened on an assessment, we still have a connection as people, because that's what they're going to remember. No one's going to remember, the test they took. No one's going to remember that they got masters on some STAR test, unless it's a shared celebration with their teacher, because together they worked on that and she instilled something in them that really made them feel like they could get there, they could do it.
Gosh, I love that. And it feels like there's so many forces kind of like sucking that human connection and joy out of educational systems. What are the counter forces you think work?
I think when we talk to our teachers here, we really work on mindset. We first and foremost, trying to help them have the right mindset about their position, their job, their role, their responsibility, their connection with their team. But then also their mindset about the impact they can have on kids. We do a lot of training on discipline specifically. And when we talk about discipline, it's usually thought of in the context of a student has had an infraction. What's the consequence going to be? And that's definitely part of it. But we try to think about what could we do before that infraction happens? What preventative measures can we take? And then also, we know the infractions are going to happen. We know they're going to mess up because they're human, because they're kids, because we mess up, right? And so how do we make that a learning opportunity? How do we make that not the end of the world for them? How do we give them that chance to come back even stronger and not judge themselves over a mess up, And so I think teachers have had the opportunity to shift their focus, and I think it kind of lightens their load, because now it's not this pressure of trying to think through what's the right consequence, or thinking of a kid, oh, I've got that kid in my class, but instead it's like, oh, I've got that kid. Like something's going to be different for that kid this year, And I think it gives those teachers who already thought like that, it gives them more community with their peers. And for people who hadn't thought that way before, a lot of people like my age who that's not what school was like when we were in school.
Yeah.
And so it's a shift for them. It takes a second to think through, how do I change this behavior and keep it from happening again, along with all the other things I have to accomplish today. And how do I do that in a way that builds that student up, so that, number one, I don't have to continue to deal with that behavior, but then also so that student trusts me enough to give me their best every time they're sitting in my class,
Oh, so such a shift in the energy, not like the mindset, I think shifts the energy, shifts the relationship, and just that notion that you talked about of kids are going to come in and it's expected. The bumps are expected instead of the bumps are a signal that there's something wrong with that kid.
Right. Yeah. I think, I remember I'm not a great cook. It's something I'm good at a lot of things. Cooking's not one of them. I'm okay with that. Actually, no one's asking me to cook dinner. No one's rushing, begging me for their favorite meal. But there are times that I have cooked, and I remember my husband getting seconds or going to get seconds, and me getting like a little teary-eyed about it. Because I was like, are you getting more? Are you getting a second plate? And Lorenzo, my oldest, going, oh, Mom, that was hard for you. Like, cooking's hard for you.
Oh.
And it was such a realization of how often do kids see our hard,
Oh.
Like they just see us automatically be good at everything. And so they must feel so small when every time they're in this learning mode that they haven't gotten it yet, when all they see is finished product everywhere,
Whoa. Whoa.
It's important for them to see us struggle. It's important for them to see us mess up also.
I hear you like inviting all of us to live out loud all the phases of mastery, not just like try to hide under the radar until you hit mastery, which as a gift to the kids in our care.
Right. Oh, that's a beautiful way of putting it. I think there's a freedom in that for us as adults when we, I guess when I was a teacher, I felt the need to know everything.
Mm-hmm.
I had to know all the knowledge. I was a second grade teacher, so it wasn't too hard to know all the academic pieces. But even when we studied back then, we were doing themes. And then when they would ask me something about amphibians, I felt like I had to know that. And it was a lot of pressure. And now what freedom there is in just teaching kids resources to go find the answers, or to say to a kid, I have no idea. That's such a great question. Let's figure that out together. There's such a kind of relief in that. And I think it empowers kids to understand that we're all always learning. No one knows everything. Even the teacher doesn't know everything. And there's kind of a simplicity. It puts us on the same playing field sometimes. And I think sometimes there's a fear in that for teachers. If they are on the same playing field, maybe they don't have the authority. But the truth is you're still the adult in the room. But when it comes to learning, we're all learners all the time, right?
And knowing that you're in administration and you're setting that tone that then trickles down to the teachers and the faculty and then trickles down to the students, that feels so hopeful, because everything you're talking about, that sense of human connection, that sense of relationships being at the center, understanding that if a kid doesn't get something or has a bump, it's a skill deficit or a trauma response or a coping situation, not that they're bad. Like all of these things you're talking about to me precede good learning. Like if those things are in place, good learning happens. And it's all parallel process. If the administration is shutting down space for mistakes with the teachers, then they often will shut down space for the kids. How do you create that container in a whole district?
Mm-hmm. As a matter of fact, when I moved into this position, I really was not interested in it. It's really seen as number one, the complaint department, where parents can go and file grievances when they're upset. And the other part is the discipline department, where you're dealing with JJ placements, DAP placements, major infractions, that kind of stuff. And And when I talked to my superintendent, he said, it's not my wheelhouse. It doesn't sound like the most fun thing to sign me up for. And he said, well, you can look at it that way, or you can see that position as an opportunity to shape the culture of the district in a way that is more preventative of discipline, that helps spread the SEL learning that you're trying to instill in your campus, that helps build culture in every campus so that all kids feel like they have a strong relationship. And who would say no to that position? That was such a great spin on it. And that's really the approach that I've taken every day that I walk in here. And the truth is, parents do call upset, but they're not upset with me. And a lot of times they're not really upset with the school. It's more just like lack of understanding. And then you have parents that are upset because their kid's really messed up. They've done something really big. And some of those are my very favorite, because you get to help that parent see that it's not a reflection of you. It's not even a reflection of that kid. It's just where we are at this moment. And now we get to decide which direction we're going to go with it. So I feel like lucky to be in that position and to shift the dynamics a little bit about how we view discipline. We start the year off with district-wide training that comes from our office, and it starts with who we are as a district, like what we believe, and really giving the opportunity for each principal to say, what does that look like at this campus? Because they are their own independent vision for their school, but also as a district, here's what we believe, and here's what that looks like for us as a coyote, as an eagle, And so, and then we go into very clear, these are the expectations for how we work as a team. These are the expectations for how we move through the hallway. Every year we go through that. Every year we talk through what worked last year, what didn't work, what do we want to make sure we keep. If it didn't work, what did we not explain correctly? Have we not practiced that enough? Because we all need reminders, and kids forget from time to time. We revisit all those same expectations mid-year. We have teachers in this same training reflect on their own classroom practices, because you have your school-wide systems, but you also have your classroom systems. And then we have some very specific practices that we do to build relationships. One of them being circles, relationship circles. And it comes from the restorative practice mindset. We do a lot of training on how do you even begin this? How do you honor that circle? What is the role of it? Why would we even do it? So that teachers understand, if you can give this time once a week to really know your kids, then you're going to be able to connect with them in a way that you couldn't before, and they're going to be able to know you. One training I saw said, with this kind of circle, you build this relationship, and even kids, really tough kids, it may not change them completely. It may not keep them from stealing a car, but they're not going to steal your car. And so, and I think it just helps the teachers know, like, regardless of how this kid is anywhere else, this kid can still love your class, perform well in your class. And right now, that's your main focus, is how do I connect with this student to make them successful? How do I connect with each of them? And then how do I build that culture so that they're connecting with each other, so that they aren't all dependent on me, but that we have this class culture that is celebrating each other, that knows each other, that sticks up for each other on the playground, that helps each other. You don't have all this tattling because we've laid out all these expectations of what we're going to do. And so it really is, for me, it has been life-changing to even do circles in my own home, to do circles as a family, and to sit in circles, the things you learn about kids. Some questions are simple. What's your favorite ice cream? And then some questions you really get to see where a kid comes from, or things they've experienced, especially your older kids. There was some hesitation about circles at the secondary level in the high school. With the high school students really sit and join in a circle. It seems a little kumbaya. They love it. The high school students love it. Now, it takes a minute because they are still very cool kids, and they're going to drag their chair to the circle. They're going to act like this is not what they want to be doing. But after a few times, something happens where it's like, when are we doing circle? Because they get a voice now, and they see each other differently now. And the kid who never says anything has something to say. It becomes just a safe spot for teachers to engage with students for a short period of time, once a week. And then we put it aside and we can get down to business. But you've scheduled it. And I think that's one of the most important things when I work with other districts, hear about their success. One of the challenges they have is knowing that the circles are actually happening. They train their teachers. They say it's an expectation, but they don't really know if it's happening. And I think one of the things that's really helped us is we've scheduled it. So everybody knows when all these circles are happening, so that a teacher doesn't have to decide between I'm behind on curriculum or I need. It's kind of like working out when you have a trainer and they're waiting for you and you've scheduled a time and you've paid for it. You're more likely to show up. I feel like it's the same. You invest ahead of time because you say, this is important for my future self. And so I'm going to go ahead and get this on the books. I'm going to schedule it and everybody's going to know what the plan is. And then I'm going to make sure that I follow through on that. And so I think that's one of the things that's really helped us as a district to be consistent in our implementation district-wide.
It's that front loading, isn't it? It's like, are the systems in place? Are the relationships strong? Like all of these things that if you're in firefighter mode, you'd be like, we got to put the fire out. But if you're in community planning mode, you're like, no, this stuff means fewer fires.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's more like you just pause for a second and spend the time thinking of what are the steps I need to put in place. Let's do that now so that this relationship building with my students doesn't become I hope I get to it. It becomes like an integral part of how the classroom runs. We also do community agreements. It's one of our district-wide expectations. And this is where you actually lay out, how do you as a student want to be treated by the teacher? As a teacher, how do I want to be treated? How do your peers want to be treated? How do we want to treat this classroom? Which sounds super simple, but some of the things that I have seen come from that. How often do teachers get to really speak as a person and say, it's important, I spend so much time planning these lessons, and so do me a favor. When I am up here teaching, put all your energy on me. I promise I will build you the best lesson if you promise that you are going to be super engaged for this 15 minutes, It's just kind of gives them a platform to say all the things that they want to feel. And when you see what students put up there about how they want to be treated by teachers, it is a window into some of the ways they've been treated in the past, good and bad, that either they want more of or they don't want to experience again. You can really see that come out. And I think everybody gets to hear. We all have this idea of what it means to be respectful, what it means to be kind. But when you sit and discuss, what does that look like to you? And what does that look like to you? It really makes it very explicit about how we want to be treated. And I think that's a life skill that kids are walking away from Wiley with, that they get to be able to be very clear about how they want to be treated. They even get to think about that. And it makes such a difference. Again, life-changing in my house. We did this in my house. And it was so wonderful to hear my boys speak and say, I don't like it when you speak over me, or I want to be able to get a thought out. I had on the list, when I text you, you have got to text me back. Like, let me know you got it.
Yeah. Send signs
Simple
of
things,
life.
right? Yes. Yes. Simple things.
Yeah.
But those things can add up if you never mention it. They may never even know that that's something that bothers you if you never say it. So
Right.
it's a life skill for them, but it's also such a culture builder for the classroom. We called it treatment agreements, but we've evolved to community agreements, because it really is. When we talk about how we want to treat the environment, what we're talking about there, what it used to be is we want to pick up our stuff. We want to make sure our supplies are put away. But what it's evolved to is we want to cheer each other on. We want a class that nobody's left out. When we're outside, nobody's going to be left out. If we say something here in the class, it's a protected area. We're not going to be talking down the hall about it somewhere. And our staff do it. Our principals do it with their staff. It's just such a simple tool to talk through how we do business. And I think it's really smart. It's really smart.
And it's so tactical. It's something people can take and use in however big their locus of control is. You can practice what you just talked about.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the attending to systems before you decide you have a kid issue or a personnel issue is so important. Like when I was doing more leadership work, we used to talk about, we don't know if we have a personnel issue until we deal with the system issue. And so until we kind of level set and do all the things you're talking about that Wiley does, this person who we are seeing as acting out or having a problem could actually be the healthiest person in the system, because they're sounding an alarm with their behavior, which, back in my family therapy days, often the kid who the family said they were coming in to work on, quote unquote, was the healthiest person in that system. And they were sounding an alarm that some family-wide things needed to be addressed. Same in school systems.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's so spot on, because the truth is, when you talk about your severe behaviors that are happening in classrooms, or your repeat offenders, what we're really talking about is a small percentage of students, maybe 10% of students, less than that, that really need additional support, or maybe something very specialized. But if your classroom systems aren't in place, it will feel like many, many more. So you can't even sift out those students that need additional support, because everybody's coming across as if they need additional support. So you got to start there. You got to start with the systems. And then even when we have those students who are high needs, who are having meltdowns, who are having you call your crisis team, even then we have a system where your crisis team comes, they help you manage a student, you meet again, and you meet right then. You don't just wait for the next emergency situation. It's what happened, what made the student upset, what do we need to do differently next time, how did we respond, were we fast enough, is the student needing something outside of this classroom? And I think those kind of details, the leaders that follow up and make sure that they're following through on that kind of post work, the pre-work and the post-work, their campuses run so much smoother, because everybody's very clear on what they're supposed to do in all situations, including the students.
Yeah, that's powerful.
Hi, I'm Katie Worden, producer of Oxygen for Educators. I want to spotlight our sponsor, TackyBox. TackyBox is an elementary school program that pairs innovative content with a tactile tool in daily practice to teach children to self-monitor their own words and actions and their responses to others. It's a proven tool that reduces behavior incidents by 66%. Through daily self-reflection, students build self-awareness, self-regulation, and meaningful connections. TackyBox is a light lift for teachers with a big impact on student well-being. Go to tackybox.com to learn more and become a TackyBox district.
Switching gears a tiny bit, congratulations on your Faculty Award for Excellence from the American College of Education.
you.
That was
Thank you.
awesome to see. And I read your Q&A that was celebrating the award, and in it you talked about that the role of educators has evolved in positive and challenging ways in the years that you've been doing this. Can you talk about what you've noticed?
Yeah. So my mom was a superintendent for Texas Can Academies. These are students who are struggling to graduate. They go to this alternative school, charter school. And she and I talk a lot. And she frequently reminds me how much the standards have changed, the expectations have changed, in the sense that they were never required to get students academically to a point where we are today. But then also there's been a power dynamic that has shifted, right? In my house, the teacher was always right. There was you didn't question a teacher. Even if the teacher was wrong, the teacher was right. Because obviously that was her impression. So that's what we were going to go with. Nowadays, parents are more vocal. They're more in control. As they have more of a say. They are backing their kids up, good or bad. And so in that sense, there's just a power dynamic that has shifted. And so the truth is we no longer are able just to say, this is the case. This is the consequence. We have to help them understand we care about your kid. We love them. We have to keep them safe along with all the other students keeping safe. And so here's what we are doing. But we have to build that relationships with parents so that they also see we're not picking on your child. We're not targeting your kid. We actually want to partner with you. How do we make school better for your kid? And so that's something back in the day just didn't happen. And then also students have evolved, right? Our students are, they're exposed to so much more on social media. They have the world in front of them, unlike any of us ever did. And they also, their brains are developing and they feel things very big. Their first heartbreak is so big. Their need for respect is so big. Their ideas towards how they're viewed is so important to them. And so I don't know if we understood that when I was in school, but I think educators now understand, like, our kids in that 10 to 25 range, like Dr. Yeager writes about in his book, 10 to 25, it really is such a critical time for us where we have that opportunity to help students shape themselves and also be respectful in the way that we do that, not because they're kids, but because they're people, and we need to present information in a way that is respectful. And so I think that's a shift in how we have to approach teaching, not to mention the things that they have access to. We also need to be aware of what's getting their attention and how do we use that to our benefit, so that we can relate with them. How can we just make better connections with them? And they'll tell you, if you sit in a circle and start talking about your favorite song or your favorite game, they'll tell you all the things that they are doing. And our kids, they're managing so much more than we ever did. They're impressive. I feel very hopeful for our future.
Yeah.
They're smart.
They are. They're so smart and they're so impressive. And walking around in the world with the kind of the kind of things looming for them, like, if they become a target online and that spreads, even if that never happens to them, the fact that it could is such a different, put you in a survival state kind of thing than anything we dealt with. I feel like when we were kids and growing up, the worst case scenarios still felt manageable and like you could extinguish it or turn the corner or, that I don't feel like that's what they carry. They carry something so much more dramatic in terms of possible effects of anything, any move they make. And that's heavy.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's why it's important we equip them with how to handle situations, how to get out of situations, but then also how not to ruminate over things. And then understanding that when we talk about the kind of person they are, we're not talking about the kind of person they will be someday, but we're talking about like right now, the kind of person you are right now, you know? I always felt like when I was in school, it was like, what are you going to be when you grow up? And what great things are you going to do? And there was this always forward looking, futuristic. And I still think that way, like someday, what am I going to be? And I think we've shifted that so that when we talk to kids, we're like, right now, you're great. Right now, you're great.
Yeah.
You know, you can do things right now. You don't have to wait until you have this amazing title or you are doing things. You can impact the world as you are right now.
It's fun to think about what that means as they go into more and more positions of power, having from very early on understood that it's now. It's not some future point. It's what I do decision by decision, moment by moment, and how that impacts me and my community.
Yeah. You know, you mentioned ACE. I teach a course for future principals, and that is one of the things that we spend some time talking about. It's before they leave and go on to do great things, is that the notion of, are you a thermometer or are you a thermostat at your campus? You know, what role are you playing? And you don't have to wait to be a principal to have an impact at your school. Like, what can you do right this second as a leader, the leader that you are? I think all of us could benefit from that kind of reminder.
It's exciting to think about principals being in your care and getting kind of that lens from the jump. Tell me what you do to stay as centered and clear as you seem.
You know, I would say I've learned from the principals. I don't know if they are in my care as much as I am getting to learn, because principaling after COVID's different. I became in this role at COVID in 2020. And so our principals are stronger, more equipped than I ever was. They are handling things better than I ever did. And so learning from them, but then also I'm realistic. I never come in thinking it is going to be a perfect day. It is going to be awesome. You know, think positive. That's what my mom would drill into me. Think positive. But also, I understand that our job is about struggles and challenges, that kids are going to mess up. And so instead of it's going to be a perfect day, it's more like it's going to be a great day. And if something comes up, I'm equipped to handle it. You know, we have a whole team here. So that when that moment happens, I'm not like put off or scared.
Yeah.
And it's what we talk about with, you know, our principals also. When they call, you can hear it in their voice when there's so much coming at them. And so you just have to decide, are they just needing an answer, or do they just need you to ask them questions so they can come up with the answer on their own, you know? So really learning to figure out each principal's needs, their culture, their way of thinking, and what's the best way to support them. A lot like you do in the classroom. That's been really fun. And then also, my boss makes work really fun. He comes in and we don't talk about work for the first few minutes. We get updates. He says the craziest things that I'm like, what are you talking about? You know, like we try to laugh. I heard another superintendent say, I just want to work someplace with my friends and have fun. And that's how I feel. Like I get to come to work with my friends, and I'm also working, but also with my friends. And that makes such a difference. It makes such a difference to be able to laugh together at the craziest things and just have fun at work. It's important.
Mark Nepo has a quote that joy is not an added feature. It's a sign of deep health. And I feel like that's true in systems. Like if you go to work and there's joy in the room, even if you're dealing with really hard stuff, you keep on that path. And if you go into a building and joy is extinguished, especially if there are kids there, wave all the flags like danger, danger. Yeah.
I find that there's also certain people in buildings where we went, I've told this story before because it has stuck with me so deeply. We went to go visit another campus at another district, and there was like these positive signs and these things that students could write to each other. I was like, oh, I love that. And they're like, oh, our librarian put that up there. I was like, oh, that's really cool. And we go to the cafeteria and there's these little discussion cards where students can have like conversations. And I was like, oh, that is so smart. Oh, our librarian put those on there. And I was like, I am seeing a pattern here, right? Like that librarian that has nothing to do with cafeteria, that doesn't even belong on that hallway, owned the idea of how do we get kids engaged. Like she was bringing it. She had a presence in that school, not just in that library.
Amazing.
Right? I love people who bring so much joy to their building. Or I went to go see a kindergarten teacher at this house. She answered the door, get in here, get in this house. It's just like, who doesn't want to run into that classroom?
Yes, get in here.
Get in here, come on.
Oh, so sweet.
Everyone should feel that welcomed, right?
Yeah. And that's the conditions under which kids learn, and where we lost that thread and how that thread is caught in political crosshairs at the moment is so disheartening. I know you see what's happening in schools. Do you have some thoughts about what the general population gets wrong that you would love to kind of correct the record on, of like, this might be the narrative out there, but let me tell you what's happening?
I think the thing that I see that hurts my heart the most is accusations of schools not doing anything around the idea of bullying. Because it's not a one-time fix. When you have pure conflict, it is actually something that we start working on from kindergarten and instilling in students how to interact, how to respond when you're upset, how to determine, is this a big issue or a small issue? Our SEL person in our district is so amazing. Our counseling department is so amazing. All the things, all the lessons, all the ideas that they've instilled in teachers, it's something that we work on all the time, ongoing, because it has to be. Because when we're talking about true bullying, something's obviously happened to that kid. We have to protect a victim. But a lot of times it really is pure conflict that we're always working on. We're always working on how to get along better. And you just watch the news, adults are still working on that, so it's a lifelong, how do you keep your emotions in check and not respond in a way that's going to escalate a situation? And when people assume nothing's been done, I don't want to say never, that's rarely the case. Sometimes it's that we didn't have the information, but teachers are working on that proactively all the time. And then when they hear about it, they absolutely address it. They address it in a way that tries to bring dignity to both students and tries to repair the relationship. But a lot of times I feel like we're stuck in maybe some old belief patterns and want certain outcomes. And I don't think that that's helpful always. Yeah. So I wish people knew how much we do in education, in our classrooms, to equip students on dealing with other students and dealing with conflict.
Oh, it was perfectly said. I think you represented that really well, that it's a complex ladder all the way through their education, attending to that skill building and then addressing it when things get rough. Yeah. When you knew we were going to have the opportunity to have this conversation, was there anything you wanted to make sure we addressed or talked about?
I so admire the work that you're doing, and I appreciate that. I think there is a misunderstanding in our world when we talk about the need for self-care, I'll say, and for taking care of our mental needs, our mental health. I think a lot of times we see that as something we are going to take care of when we get home, or something we're going to do like get our nails done or take a bath. And although those are also great things, I think really what my hope is that teachers will begin to really adopt that idea of taking care of themselves daily during the school day. And what that looks like could be different. It's not just a breathing moment, but more a opportunity to reflect on, are they ruminating, or is there something they can do? Is there an action step they can take, or should they move on? Checking in on their mindset, finding a moment to understand, like, that's just a 7-year-old, remember, he's just a 7-year-old. Although he's tearing things up, there's things that we need to do, but he's also in distress, he's having a problem right now. And so I think that idea of self-care to be a little bit more expanded, global, understanding that it's not an after work thing, it's an all day activity, an all day mindset, and all day thinking. Right?
Yeah, that's so impactful, thinking about not postponing it or thinking you're going to do it in a 30-minute chunk, if you even do that, but really thinking about, like, how am I thinking about my circumstances and my relationships? And is that essentially regulating my nervous system or dysregulating my nervous system? And what are the things I'll do for myself to be in a regulated nervous system more often? And what do I need from my community, which you laid out so beautifully in this time, like that community care piece? How does that fit in? What do I need more of? What do I need less of? Like, even holding that curiosity will change a teacher's experience. Just kind of almost pulling up and looking at those questions, like what might my mindset or my practices be throughout the day in terms of self-care and community care. And then just, you don't even have to try to change something right away. Just holding that question can give people a little bit of a break from their inner torment. Yeah.
Inner torment is a great way to describe that, because I do think teachers put so much pressure on themselves. They're responsible for so much. But teachers are so amazing at all the things that they do. No one would have any idea of what they do, what educators in general do. I have so much respect for the teachers in our district and our, everywhere, teachers everywhere. It's impressive the things that they can get kids to do and the ways that they can get them to learn. I think that it is highly underrated. I think teachers are under-recognized. And so, but those that know, they know. And there's times when we go out to dinner on Friday and I see the teacher groups. My sons can pick out the teacher groups with their shirts on inside out. And they're laughing and they are enjoying their time. And it makes me so happy because they need to have a community. They need to have a group that they can connect with, because this is hard work. Yeah. But it's the most important work, right? It's shaping all the things to come. It's the most important thing that we do. And so it's a big responsibility.
Yeah. And so many extraordinary people doing extraordinary things all day long, every day. Under-recognized, underappreciated sometimes, but boy is it happening.
There was this one story. Okay. It's my favorite and I tell it a lot, but it just speaks to the heart of a teacher. And you may already know this situation, but it was based on, there was an earthquake in China that had happened. And I saw, it was right around the Olympics, and there was a basketball player that was holding a small kid's hand. Lin Hao was the kid's name. And they were speaking about him, how he had survived the earthquakes, and that he had been found huddled with his classmates to the side, keeping them safe, singing songs to keep their spirits high. And they asked him, how did you know to do that? And he said, oh, it's my job. I'm the hall monitor.
Oh.
My job is to keep kids safe.
Oh.
And I was just like, what teacher poured into that kid?
Mm-hmm.
How they explained hall monitor.
Oh my gosh.
In a way that turned this kid into a hero.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like we walk into our classrooms every day with the opportunity to shape a kid to that extent.
Incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, little hall monitor doing his job.
Right?
But it's that, like, I understand I'm responsible for myself and the people around me. And I know I'm going to show up, and boy, did he. Oh, so dear. I'm glad you told that story. I hadn't heard it.
Okay.
Okay. Well, if it's okay with you, I want to close this out with a quote of yours that I read.
Oh, okay.
You're going to be like, I never said that. No.
What is it?
I hope you did. This is what I read. That you said, my advice would be to build strong relationships with colleagues and students. In the end, it's the relationships with the people we encounter along our journey that make the biggest difference. These connections enrich our professional lives and leave a lasting impact on our students' lives. Prioritizing these relationships and being genuinely invested in the success of others will inspire and empower those around you, making your role as a faculty member truly meaningful.
Oh, Michelle, that's so good.
It's so good. It's your words. You said it.
I hope I live that. I hope I live that every day.
Well, I feel like it encapsulates everything you talked about. So I think you clearly do. You clearly do live it. So thank you for your work in the world and for this time together. It was such an honor.
Same. I look forward to hearing all the great things that come from you.
Thank you so much. We'll have to stay in touch. And if there's ever anything we can do for you to just support your efforts, just know that we are there and we are cheering you on. And I'm just delighted to know the levers you have in such a big district, and that the way you're restructuring that role to be so like celebrating humanity, figuring it out day to day instead of like a hammer. That's what we need. So I'm so grateful to know you.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to talk today.
Great. Have a wonderful week.
Okay, thanks. You too. Bye.
Okay, we are back and ready to highlight some of the key points that we can't shake and that shaped us. So, Chris, what do you want to start with?
So, interestingly enough, I was rereading the Book of Joy, the Dalai Lama and Bishop Tutu's book, the Book of Joy. And the morning that I was preparing for this, I was in the chapter on perspective. And it just brought the fact that she talked so much about mindset to the forefront. So I was going to read this one piece, really resonated with me. For every event in life, the Dalai Lama said, there are many different angles. When you look at the same event from a wider perspective, your sense of worry and anxiety reduces and you have greater joy. And I felt like that's what she was saying in all of those different instances, talking about, originally the job that she's in was known as, okay, you have to take complaints from parents. But she shifted her perspective to, I can help parents understand it's not about them. It's not about their kid. It's a point in time. And she just gave several examples like that. So it just wasn't lost on me that that's what I was reading as I was listening to that interview.
Oh, I love that synchronicity, because she is kind of like a Zen master in terms of that perspective shift and it impacting her experience and then the experience of everyone in that community. Can you read it one more time?
Sure.
Sorry, I interrupted you.
No, I was just going to add, like, I feel like for everyone listening, just thinking about that perspective. I mean, I've literally gone through the last 36 hours of my life thinking about that. Every time my mindset went negative, I thought about her in that moment in this book and how do you switch that? So I think it would hopefully be helpful to our listeners. Okay, so for every event in life, there are many different angles. When you look at the same event from a wider perspective, your sense of worry and anxiety reduces and you have greater joy.
That's really good.
And interestingly enough, 2 paragraphs later, Viktor Frankl was quoted. Our perspective towards life is our final and ultimate freedom. And Dr. Helm referenced freedom quite a bit in relation to changing your mindset, that offers a freedom. So I loved that.
It makes me think of that quote, we do not see the world as it is, we see the world as we are. And so she embodies that, like, okay, prism shift, let's widen the lens like you were talking about so that there's maneuverability, there's a way to interact with whatever it is that feels like life-giving instead of punishing. And wow, I'm gonna really like think on what you read and how she embodies that, because it feels like it could be something you could work on the rest of your life and never read another thing and just kind of go deeper and deeper and deeper into this relationship of perspective and joy and perspective and what for me, there's something about how she talked about it that in addition to joy and freedom, it's like it's almost like a battery, like the way she interacts with tough situations increases her battery instead of the same exact situation, but interacting with it from a different perspective, a different lens, draining your battery.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah. Interesting. I feel like I've already gotten enough to work on for a week. So I just want to close the podcast out right away.
Because one of the things I was going to ask you, I liked when you gave the advice, which I think is helpful to people. You know, if in the self-care piece, she actually said when you asked her a question about self-care, she brought up self-care, that thinking about your mindset all day long is self-care. And you gave the example of just asking yourself, what do I need more of or less of right now? And then also in this book, they gave the example of the silver lining thought experiment, which is to take us out of our limited perspective. And the exercise is take something bad that happened in the past and then consider all the good that came out of it to help you shift your perspective, work that muscle so that it becomes easy for you to do. I loved that exercise.
This is getting deep quick. Like really like, but I mean that in a, like, I mean that in a, the second you start playing with these type of concepts, you can move into a different nervous system state just with that little shift, without any of your circumstances changing. So it makes me want to go play. It makes me want to go think differently and pay attention to what thoughts I'm having, what interactions I'm having that are taking me further away from the way I want to show up in the world, and then what thoughts am I having that are fueling me to show up in the world in the way I would be more proud of. Interesting.
I like that you call it go play. That's a fun way to look at it. Go sit in a corner and think about bad things and try to find the silver lining. That's play.
That's where we've gotten to.
We might not get invited to the party. Okay, what came up for you, my friends?
Y'all are too weird. Okay, every note I took, I underlined and starred. I would try to go back through and be more discerning, but she was packed full. This is one I hope people go back and listen to because her frame is so useful. One of the things that I really, really liked is how she talked about letting kids see our hard, that we should live 3-dimensionally in front of kids so they don't think they're the only ones on that mastery curve just figuring it out still. That's just so generous. It's generous to us to show up more fully in front of everyone in our lives. And it's generous to the kids to be like, okay, there is a path to mastery. It's not that you just wake up one day and you're there or you're not there. Are you getting some love from Ellie right now? Wait, you're muted.
I was muted because she was barking a little bit. Yes, I love that. And it also made me, she referenced this later, but it tied to that point to me, that we have the perspective or the perception that teachers are perfect and they're masters of everything. Mm-hmm. And that's a hard place to be. So the thought of teachers showing that side to kids, that's really impactful, even more so than a parent, because you're with the parent all the time. So you're going to see that your parent is still a work in progress. But even I, as an adult, until I listened to this podcast, I wasn't thinking about the fact that, okay, teachers aren't perfect.
Yeah.
It's a perception.
Yeah. And it's a pressure cooker. Like it's an impossible, it's one more impossible bind we put educators in that she illustrated a release valve.
Mm-hmm. And I like that
cool.
She said we're all learners all the time.
Yeah.
I liked that phrase.
Yeah. That's the play.
That's the play. That's the play.
This is the year your girl discovers what she loves. She'll make lifelong friends, smile till her cheeks ache, and explore amazing places. She'll try new things, climb higher, and lend a helping hand. She'll change her world, adventuring in ways you never imagined. She'll grow in confidence, turn dreams into reality, and find her voice. And through it all, she'll have big fun. Give your girl the opportunity to grow with Girl Scouts. Visit girlscouts.org/join today.
I really liked her discussion around community agreements and having community agreements. I kind of thought to myself, maybe I'd still be married if I would have had a community agreement. It's really interesting. And it's interesting that she did that in her household. That sounds like something you would do. Did you do something similar to that in your household?
We dipped in and out of different things like that over the years, but I don't know if I ever told you one time my daughter saw me interviewed on TV about empathy and helping children learn empathy. And when I came home, they were like, "We don't think you should talk on TV about things you don't do at home." It was so great. I was like, noted. It was so funny. It made me laugh so hard. So, we definitely kept that conversation alive, but not with the intentionality that she described. And the thing that stuck out, were you done with your thought?
Keep going. Yes.
Okay. The thing that she described that I was like, oh my gosh, we have no idea the impact of that long term, is that those community agreement conversations give students practice articulating what they need, what they like, what they don't like. And then you play that forward into their future. We're talking about differences in their intimate relationships around domestic violence. I mean, I'm going to the extreme, but like different relationships with their bosses, with their coworkers, like that muscle early on to be able to articulate what you need. That reminds me of the kind of work we're doing in Tacky Box in terms of seems simple, massively long-term implications. Really caught my attention.
I think what you just described might be why I had this aha. And again, I haven't worked in a school, so I just see it as a parent from the periphery, or, what we've done with Tacky Box to get things started, but it's not you're present every day. The thing that really I thought a lot about after listening to the intentionality of designing the structure and the system with relationship at the center, and was just that schools are like one of the few places where community and living in community is normal, or the basis of it all. And that's what we crave, I think, as humans, and what's missing. So when it's done well, it's transformational.
Yes. And
because of the community piece. And I just never thought about that until listening to her. And you're probably going, yeah, you're late to the party.
No. She brought some things into focus, I think, in such elegant ways. No question. That reminds me of our interview with Byron Sanders, where he talked about the number of hours that are spent together, and what a waste if we aren't super intentional about not only building academic prowess, but also like building strong brains and good humans and people capable of being in relationship in a way that meets the needs of the people around them, but also meets their own needs. Like that's the game. That's it. That's what we're here to do.
And think about, it was obviously done successfully at Adele Turner, his elementary school, because he was talking about how the Turner Tigers, his friend group, they still, gather around being a Turner Tiger when they were in elementary. So I don't know. That warmed my heart to think about it that way.
Yeah.
And I hope people listening realize, like, others are starting to realize that piece of it all, which is so much more than academics.
And you could tell she had done things and learned because of the point she made about scheduling it. Like, don't leave it to chance. Don't put teachers in the position where they're having to be like, do I do this? Do I do that? It's just like, we're going to prioritize. I capitalized relationships like 18 times in my notes of listening to her. Prioritize relationships, put those at the center, trust that from that, the other measurable things we get obsessed with in education come. Interesting. I loved how she talked about helping the students think of themselves as change makers, ripple makers in this moment, not like when I get older and have such and such title. That was so cool and wonderful. And another one that I was like, whoa, how different are they in the world if they're not waiting to become something that can impact, if they're thinking of themselves all along as having the power to impact and shape things from the jump.
And I think that's a must with kids today. Like, she touched on the shifting power dynamic, and I felt like she was implying from teacher to parent. I actually think it's teacher to student, because and she did talk about this, kids today, like, they want to be respected. Mm-hmm. And what we know is that you're not going to get respect just because you're an adult from a kid today. So I do think there's a shift in that. And for a teacher to, or any kind of educator, administrator, anyone, to look at a student and see them that way now, that's what's going to earn respect and then make their work more effective.
So powerful. What else is on your list?
Well, I loved the discussion around circles, which seems another thing that seems so simple, but so important. And one of the things I was going to ask you, because as we know, not every district prioritizes restorative practices, which is where the circle time comes from. So if there was a listener who wanted to implement that in their classroom because they were inspired by Dr. Helm, what types of questions would you arm that classroom leader with to try to have a meaningful circle time?
I would say the questions matter less than the structure. So to just for the kids to have clarity around, we're sitting together. We're sitting together for this amount of time. Whatever agreements they have among each other about who's listening and who's talking, like putting those sorts of things in place, which teachers are phenomenal at, that matters the most. And then if there's a way to balance out, depending on the age of the kids, who's driving what conversations happen. Like maybe some questions are brought forth from the teacher, maybe some are brought forth from the students. Like maybe there's a basket in the classroom where people can put suggestions of questions that that can get talked about and discussed. Like it can go any number of ways. The gist is what she said. It's like moving it away from, I hope we get to it, to putting it as an integral part of how this community runs, and knowing that when students and teachers are having conversations about themselves, their lives, how they see things, their hopes, their dreams, whatever, that she said that changes how they see each other and show up for each other the rest of the week. That's what happens. It's so profound when our nervous systems feel seen, felt, understood, believed in, like those kind of core things. We show up for learning. When those core things aren't there, we hide. It's, it's simple, and it's often crowded out of systems that are obsessed with or being guided by fear, panic, test scores, those things that make us shrink into dealing with students as if they're widgets. That probably dates me. I don't even know if that's a word that's used in 2025, but you get my point. You just used it. It's out there now. Yeah. What are you thinking? When you think about that, about a teacher wanting to implement something like that, even if their entire school or district isn't? What do you think would be impactful?
You know, I haven't participated in one, but I know, like, honestly, even in my close-knit friend group, like, that's one of the things that we do. We have, like, those question cards. And I was thinking about it literally, you know, we're gathered around a table in a circle, and we're really asking each other those questions. So anything that makes you think or share a piece of you.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like it weaves a net underneath us. Like each little thread of like, I feel seen or I see you. Like every single time that happens, it weaves a net that feels like safety. It feels to our nervous systems like, okay, I am part of a whole, and the people in the group, they see me, they value me. All of those things are not little, and they're not, there's no polarity between that versus academics. It's that connection, those relationships drive academics.
Does it feel to you like the majority of educators believe that now, understand that now?
Yes, I think
I do too.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. The tricky thing is that the further away you get from the work, there are people making decisions that make it hard to interact with students as whole beings. But yeah, I think the people in the room for sure get it and intuitively probably show up that way. They just sometimes get kind of yanked around in different directions that make it hard to go with what they know.
You just made me think about flipping the org chart again and the politicians being on the bottom because they are so far away from the kids. But I wanted to point out, I thought about that. And for anyone who missed Dr. Stone's interview, she talked about her vision is flipping the org chart so that the teachers are at the very top because they're the closest to serving the kids. So I think that's what you were referencing. But Dr. Helm made a similar point when she said that you asked a question about in reference to principals being in her care. And she said, oh, no, I'm learning from principals. Yes. And so it made me think about that. Like she's viewing it the opposite way too, as an administrator, which is great. Lots of common themes among the people that we're talking to.
Yeah, I noticed Robert Selders, who's a couple of weeks ago, he also referenced something about a flipped org chart. So yeah, you're right. There's a there's a thread for sure of the people that are interested in having these type of conversations.
It's fun to be in this seat to get to connect it all and then try to grab those things and apply it in your own life. You know, even for those of us not in education. And I've heard that from several listeners who aren't in education that are getting a benefit for their own life and a better understanding and appreciation of the profession. So I hope that provides oxygen to listeners who are educators.
Yeah. It's like we want everyone in the education world to feel seen and known and felt by each other and that fuel, but also know that there are people listening who are just interested in the valuable work that you do. And also, this is soul work. It doesn't matter if it's an educator or anyone. All the conversations are leaning in the direction of how do we be the most human we can be.
So one of the comments that Dr. Helm made that to me ties back to what we were just talking about and why it's important for people who are not in education to understand the profession. She said when talking about the work of educators, it's shaping all things to come. And that's everything. It's everything.
Yeah.
Shaping all things to come, because it's our
The
future
most
generations.
important.
Most
Yeah.
important.
Wow. Well, I can't think of a better note to end on than that. So I think we should let her words ring, and a huge thank you to her. She is such a light to me. Like, I want to be in her space. I want to be the upset parent that gets to call and talk to someone like her. I want to be the, principal or the other leaders in her work. Like, it's just, she is just amazing. May she feel fully seen and fully fueled to keep doing her incredible work in the world. And big thanks to you, Chris. It's always fun to have these conversations and see what jumped out at us. And obviously, thanks to Katie Warden, our producer, but also the reason we know Maricela Helm. So awesome. Hope everybody has a wonderful week. We will be back next week. And please rate, review, and share with your friends.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of Oxygen for Educators. Please like, share, and follow, and if inclined, leave us a 5-star review so that we can keep making content for you. Let us hear from you if you know someone we should interview or a topic we should cover.